It's time now for the Kill the Can podcast.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Kill the Can podcast. I'm your host, Chewie. Do you want to quit nicotine and take back control of your life? We'll tell you how we've done it and answer the questions you didn't even know you had about how you can quit today. For today's episode, I'm joined by Kill the Can member Palpatine. I apologize that I've missed a couple of weeks here of the podcast. Life has been crazy here. I got a lot of stuff, kind of personal things going on in my life, so I apologize. Like I said, I'm joined today by Palp, who longtime Kill the Can members know is a current admin on the forums and on Discord. And we just kind of launch right into the podcast. So once I finish with my intro here, you're going to hear the two of us and we launch right in. And I realized about halfway through the episode that I didn't even introduce him. So I kind of go back and I do that, but we talk about a lot of things. He's got an amazing story to tell about a family member, about his wife right now. And so that is about kind of her medical situation. Really has nothing to do with quitting dip, but we certainly get into dip and nicotine and kind of his thoughts on quitting and those kind of things. So again, apologize that I missed last week. Hopefully we're back on track here, and without further ado, here's my conversation with the one and only Palpatine. Talk to you soon, quitters. How you been?
It's been a ride.
Yeah.
This past week. Yeah.
I can't imagine. Your wife's doing okay?
Yeah. I mean, it's nothing short of a miracle. And I mean, she went in with, I was there, and when she was in the ER, you had 7 doctors and nurses all standing around her. My dad and I walked in. My dad's a retired physician, and so he's seen plenty of this before, and he knows what it is. I haven't, and we both walked in pretty calm demeanor, just because that's just how we are. And they're all saying, "Yep, she's having a stroke." You know, we have this shot called a TPA, and my dad knows exactly. I didn't know what that was. And my dad said, "Put it in or now, just get it in," you know, and it's a clot buster shot. Okay. But the thing is all of it's kind of like if you see a car crash on a highway, you'll see debris. Yeah. You know, you'll see bumpers and whatever. And so like when it goes through your brain, you'd see where the clot was. Okay. And every scan you can look at doesn't show it. Okay. But everything that she's having right now, the post stroke symptoms are all there.
They're all there. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, even the neurologist we're going to go see this week, like there's like, we're going to classify this as a stroke because she's having trouble with, getting the words out. Like she's like just cognitively, like all present. She can walk. I mean, honestly, 15 days ago, she was wheelchair bound.
Wow.
Well, no. And even a week ago in the hospital, she could barely walk. She got motor functionality back on her left side of her body. But again, it just, and then all of a sudden she's like, "I'm just going to try." And all of a sudden she's going. They're like, "Let's go to the pool and swim." And then she starts swimming. I mean, wow. To see it in real life is one thing. In front of you. So, well, you know, I'm glad day by day.
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously, I'm glad that I'm glad she's doing better, and sounds like she's trending positively, and so that's right. I mean, that's all you can. If there's anything I could do, let me know. I mean, even if it's just a matter of like lending an ear, I'm happy to do that. So,
yeah, that's my therapy. My therapy for me throughout this time was, I got to talk to people. Yeah, and I'm kind of shouting it out like, "Hey, people might not see that miracles exist or whatever. I have it proof in front of me." And even that, half the doctors are like, they want to prove it because they're the smartest people in the world. Yeah. And half of them are like, "Yeah, we see this a lot and it's unexplainable. And we know that stuff happens like this in the world." So
for the, and just so you know too, like I'm recording this, so like we could take anything out, so for the ones that want to prove it, right? What are they wanting to prove? Like, what are they looking for that they don't have now?
Well, I mean, brain doctors are very smart,
right? Sure.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, they're the doctors of the brain. Uh, and so when they can't find a cause,
Right.
um, it was kind of like all of a sudden my wife became like a pincushion, like, oh, let's try this, let's try that. Like,
Sure.
we're going to figure this out. Um, this is just, I mean, this is all opinion of mine, but it's like we saw the ones that are like, oh, you're just going to try to find something because you need to find out the answer because you're the smartest person here.
Right.
And everyone looks to you. My dad, when he was in medical school, and like he was, I mean, you're regarded as the smartest people.
Sure.
Like
Yeah.
people look to you, they tell you everything. And my dad would say, people come to his office, he's like, everyone just gives you up. You go to a doctor's office, they just give you everything.
Yeah.
Because they trust you that you know it all.
Sure.
And that's just our society and culture has put that in there. So, sorry, that's a little background, but
No. Yeah.
the ones that were there that wanted to find it, it was just that they couldn't fathom the fact that they didn't know.
Okay.
And so it just became more of almost like, in my mind, a pride issue.
Sure.
I need to know,
right,
because they're here.
Yeah.
I need to figure it out.
Right. I need to have an answer. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
And and a lot of those people are, I mean, when you're that smart, you're kind of socially awkward.
Sure. Yeah.
Like you don't really know how to interact with people. You have
right.
horrible bedside manner. You walk in and you like have a checklist of like, okay, I say hello, I say their name, I say, how are you?
Right.
And then regardless of the answer, it's like, I did my job.
Yeah.
And so it's, I mean, again, very smart people, and not dismissing that one bit.
Right.
Just the I don't know is not a fathomable or acceptable answer.
Sure.
For some of them.
But by any metric. They just, I don't know is just not an allowable response.
And or miracles don't happen. And so it's just something we can't figure out. It's like they do. It's whether you believe it or not, they happen.
Sure.
It's kind of one of those things like they happen. And my dad over time started to see like there's things that are outside of our power here
that we just can't control. Yeah.
Whether you believe it or not, it happens. So
right. Well, I guess at the end of the day, obviously, you would much rather not go through it, right? Clearly, but to see, I mean, knock on wood, it's going to be overall a profoundly positive experience, right? At the end, right? When she's good, when she's recovered, when she's, I mean, it's like you can go and you can kind of tell this story, right? And even if you don't tell the story, you've got it and you've experienced it, right? And it's proof, right? Which is really powerful. So
yeah, when it's firsthand, it's your own testimony of what you know and what you see. You kind of you don't kind of but in my case I just do. You just tell people and let them make their own conclusion when whether they hear it and want to say, yeah, that happened or it didn't. That's up to them, not me. I share the story, and if it runs, great. If it doesn't matter.
Right. I'm not going to change the story, right? Yeah.
Well, no, it's like that's what I saw. I saw it from the whole point, and I watched all 7 doctors and nurses walk into the ER, and they say the neurologist saying, "This is a stroke. Do you want this?" Yes. Every scan coming through. Okay, here you go, and hey, it's clean. And then saying, okay, would this shot have shut? I'm like, no, we would see evidence of where it was, just like a car wreck. You'd see debris of glass or bumpers or whatever. We can't see it, but she experienced it. And then the next day, they all walked into the ICU, and I was there. And I mean, they kicked me out of the hospital. I couldn't stay overnight. Some of those COVID policies are still in place where you can't stay overnight.
Okay.
And so I got in right when they opened up to visitors the next day, and I walked in, and my wife's left. I mean, her whole left side of her body was immobile, and she could never open her eye. It was just shut, and I had to pry it open.
Yeah.
And when I walked in Wednesday morning, and I just walked in, and she was sedated because she'd had a rough night, and they were checking for epilepsy. They're checking for everything: epilepsy, tumor, stroke, all of it clean. Yeah. Very healthy woman. Works out every day and takes care of herself. And I look at her, and she opens both eyes. She smiles.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what is this? Like,
Right.
this is not possible.
How
And then
how long had
those,
how long had she been in the hospital? Just one night at that point?
yeah, yeah, no, yeah. She went in at 2 o'clock the day before Valentine's Day. And so this was 8 a.m. the next day,
Okay.
the 15th.
Okay.
Because I was there till 9. They kicked me out and I came back right at 8 in the morning. And when I saw her, I was like, she loopy. They put her on some meds just to kind of calm her down, whatever. But she was able to look at me and then she kind of went back to sleep. And then everyone from the ER came in that that next day that I recognized them all. Like, it's like all 7 of them walked in.
Yeah.
And they just walked in and said, "Hi, Laura." And then they looked at her and then they all couldn't. I mean, they all just sat there and like, "Okay,
Yeah.
can you raise your left hand?" And she's like, "Okay, wait, how about your foot?" I mean, still not fully, but she had motor function.
Right.
And
Which
and
she didn't have the day before at all.
she could hold her hand up for like 2 seconds, her arm, and then would just drop. Her left leg, nothing.
Okay.
Like, it was just like you'd lift it up and hold it, boom. Just it was like it was done. Right now she's upstairs walking around. Okay.
Wow.
I mean, just the whole point is like it was all wheelchair bound, everything. Um, why is this? What happened? Healthy woman,
Wow.
46 years old, and has a stroke. I mean, and now she's, has headaches, has all the post-stroke symptoms, low light, not a lot of noise.
Yeah.
Can't drive, too complex,
Sure.
simple tasks are good, but she's rewiring her brain. But I mean, everything again, it's like they looked through everything, they couldn't believe it. And then it just was, I mean,
Wow.
it was kind of a 7-day journey. So,
Wow. And so at this point, what is have they given you any sort of a prognosis or a timeline or or is it still kind of unfolding at this point?
well, it's unfolding. When I was at the hospital, there's a guy that's in our church that was in our group, and he's a nurse there. And I saw him the night before, and I hadn't seen him in 6 months. And I went to drop off my boys at church that night on Wednesday night, and I ran into him. And I just was like, he's just like, "Hey, how you doing?" I'm like, "Hey, you work at the hospital?" He's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "My wife's there," and he's like, "Oh, okay, I'm there tomorrow. I'll come in." So he came in the next day. Again, just like how these events fall into place is just like, it's not coincidence in my mind. So, um, he comes in, he's like, "Okay, I know the right people. I know the right neurologist. I know a guy that's like, he's not going to take all the, protocols of what is currently in the medical industry. He's going to take the whole picture."
Okay.
Meaning he's like, "Hey, if this is based on the vaccine, uh, he's going to look at that. He's going to look and go against some of the practices." Because one of the first person that when I walked into the ER, she came up to me, had her mask and shield on, and says, "Is she vaccinated?" And I'm like, "What does this have to do with the stroke right now?"
Yeah. Yeah.
Like she's like, "We just want to make sure she's safe." I'm like,
From what? Right.
"She's having a stroke.
Right.
Like this makes no sense what you're saying right now."
Yeah.
And I mean, I just shook my head. I'm like, and so then, my friend, he's like, "Hey, this doctor will not follow the narrative that's happening out there in the medical industry for whatever reason. He'll look at the whole picture and say, okay, yeah, she had the, vaccine. She had this back in April 2021. Only had the initial, mRNA Pfizer one and the 2 shots, and then that's it. After that, it was like, this isn't doing anything. My family, we've just been kind of whatever, but it wasn't like we're against it, but we weren't really for it. I didn't really want it, but that's a different story. But I didn't get the mRNA ones. I got the JJ one, but
Yep.
but the doctor that we're going to, when we had a consult on Thursday, we have appointments this week, but they've already classified it. She's got a stroke, even though the scans show nothing.
Yep.
Every post symptom is there.
Right.
They're like, "Well, this is all classic. You had something. It's just not just anomaly. Just shows
Sure.
up, and
Yeah.
you're in a hospital, and then you're fine." So there's all those things that they're going to go through. They're going to look and see. My wife has history of clotting from DVT like 15 years ago. So there's clots in her historical way.
Right.
But it was in a leg. so they know that. They're like, yeah, we're treating this as a stroke. We'll give you a heart monitor. We're going to look for a couple things, and that's ongoing. It'll probably be a
Right.
6-month journey just to find out what's going on. But
Yeah.
near term is taking aspirin and just watch in case
Okay.
another stroke symptoms come up. So that's
Okay.
all.
Well, yeah, I mean, like I said, I mean, it's just you hate to, I can't tell you, and I'm kind of stammering over my words here because I just got so much kind of going through my mind right now. Your wife is not the first healthy 40-something-year-old person in my sphere of friends and acquaintances that I've heard that has happened to in the last 6 weeks, even, which is crazy. I mean, I understand that father time is undefeated and we're all getting older and shit happens, right? I get that. I don't know. My very narrow focus, it seems like it's happening more often than it ever has before. And it's happening more often than it should, I guess, is the best. Again, and I'm not a doctor, and I'm not even making any big sweeping statements, but it feels abnormal, I guess, is the best way I can put it.
Yeah, no, and that's my friend who is working at the hospital. He's like, yeah, on the neurological floor. He's like, I mean, we were walking around all last week because she'd have to kind of get up to PT, and then usually it's old people.
Yeah,
and old meaning like you're 70 or 80,
right.
and you got dementia or something.
Right.
And there was like one or two other rooms that were really, young. And I mean,
Yeah.
I consider 45 young, but
Yeah.
young women. And it's like, what are they doing here?
Right.
And so there's been this influx, as I've, just kind of the circles around my community, everyone kind of caught wind of this, like, oh my goodness. I mean, my wife's, my son's basketball coach, and who's 8 years old, so third grade kids. It's not,
Yep.
You're coaching little kids,
right?
It's not
right.
not real basketball,
right?
But when we went to the game, when I took my son to the game last Thursday, and I got in there, and they're like, "Oh, is Laura here?" And I'm like, "She's in the hospital." They're like, "What?" And I'm like, "She had a stroke." One of the other coaches' wives works in another hospital nearby here, and she just like, does she have a TIA? Does she like started like, all of a sudden I'm like, what's going on? She's like, in the 20 years I've been in this practice, I've never seen so many young people coming in recently, either
Yeah.
with a TIA, which is a transient asthmatic attack, which is like a fake stroke or
Okay.
a pre-stroke. I didn't know what that meant until a
Yeah.
week ago. And she's like, and then we're seeing a lot of healthy people coming in with heart conditions, stroke conditions, whatever it is.
Yeah.
That it's like, she's like, I've never seen it in 20 years of my work. It's all since 2020.
Yeah. Yeah. And so, and so then the I try to be really pragmatic about this stuff. So if let's just say, for argument's sake, that the increases in these things are not anomalies, right? They're actually happening, right? And I've heard similar things from my circles and from doctors and those kind of things as well. So then the obvious question is, okay, well, what happened in 2020 to cause these things, right? To cause this uptick, right? And I think just the only logical conclusion is COVID and or the COVID vaccines, right? I mean, it's just a logic problem at that point, right? I mean, I don't think there's anything else that has led us or that has affected so many people since that time, right?
Right. I mean, no, I mean, both my sisters who are nurses, one's in Montana, one's in Atlanta. They're 9 years older than me. But obviously when this happened, we start communicating in our family. Both of them independently, talking through my dad, just because I had enough on my plate at the time, said, she got vaccinated, right? I'm like, yeah, like which one? mRNA. Like, yep.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay. My sister in Montana has seen a lot of, again, I mean, it's big sky, but so you see a lot of skiing accidents, but then you see a lot of other things where, why is this, young person coming in with a heart attack or stroke symptoms? And it's the same thing, same story since then, since these things have happened.
Right. And again, I'm not, I'm not necessarily, I hate the term conspiracy theorist because it's got such a negative connotation, you know. But it's like, I guess I'm just looking for answers, and I'm looking for, and I mean, if I'm being honest, I'm scared, right? Because it's just like, I don't know how many billions of people either had COVID and or were vaccinated. And again, I'm not making a distinction right now between the two, but clearly I think it's fair to say that if we're looking for cause of these upticks, it's one of the two, right? I mean, is that a fair, again, I'm not a doctor, I'm an idiot, but I think that's just a logical conclusion. It's one of the two,
Well,
right?
think of this way. Like, why was it before 3 years ago when we made correlative statements that were like, oh, because of this, we saw this, it was more acceptable. Right now, it's
Right.
not.
Right.
Like, now it's like, well, no, we can't say that. It's like, why can't you?
Yeah. What changed?
Like, why is it all of a sudden like let's not talk about this? Or it's
Right.
like people have dug their heels up so much in, oh, it's safe. It's not, it's perfectly fine. To the fact where it's like, no, it's not.
Right.
I mean, whatever the word is, it's a correlative, like standard deviation type thing. Like,
Yeah.
interesting. These happen to kind of flow together,
Yeah.
but before 3 years ago, we could say, oh, that's true. Oh yeah, you got something there.
And you
Now it's
can't
like,
now.
no, don't say that because, you're going to offend too many people.
Right.
You're like, well, how am I offending them?
Right.
Like, and then
Well,
boo, get offended.
Right. And again, I've got three boys, and this really started coming onto my radar when you started hearing a lot of stories around heart issues specific to young males. And my wife and I started talking about, do we get them boosted? Do we get them reboosted? Do we, this, that, and the other thing? And that's when I started really getting scared for specifically for my boys, not so much for me. So I'm like you, I had Johnson Johnson. My wife and actually all three boys had, I don't remember if it was Moderna or Pfizer, but they had one of the mRNAs. I don't remember which. I've had COVID twice. Everybody else has had it at least once. My older boy has had it twice as well. Knock on wood, we've come through it and we're good. I guess really what I'm worried about, like right now today, if I'm being super selfish, is has COVID / the vaccine done damage to us that is undoable? You know what I mean? And when I say us, I'm specifically talking about my selfish, my five, the five in my family, and I guess by extension, my in-laws and my parents and those kind of things. So that's what I'm worried about more than anything. And I don't know that there's an answer to that, but that's what
as you should be.
Yeah,
it should be.
Yeah. So, well, hey, I'm not. I don't know that you and I are going to solve this today necessarily, but I appreciate you. I appreciate you kind of being willing to share at least the beginning of your journey, and I'm hoping that the conclusion to this journey is very positive for you and your wife and your kids as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good story to tell now. It's not. I mean, we're all going to die at some point.
Right.
I mean,
right.
It's like it's kind of one of those things where it's like we hope to go and live, run the race as long as we can.
Right.
And it's what you make of it. I mean, there's enough darkness in the world where we could just go down that dark path easily.
Yeah.
Because it's such an easy story to go after. It captures everything.
Sure.
I mean, I look at this and kind of go, hey, you know what? It's already done with the vaccine stuff. Is there something there? I would say that, the answer isn't no.
Right.
Like there is something there. It's just, I mean, and now some of these doctors that I've seen, they're like, we asked the one that we're going to, they're like, hey, could this be vaccine related? And they're not dismissing it. Whereas like probably 12 months ago.
6 months ago, the answer was
no.
unequivocally no. Yeah.
No, you're right. And now they're coming around saying
maybe. So I had a really, and this was a really scary experience. And I'm gonna need to put you on hold for like 5 minutes. I got somebody to come into the house. I got to go deal with them, and then I'll be back. All right. Sorry about that.
Of course, I can hear you.
All right. Sorry about that. Okay. So let's see. Where were we? We're talking about. We were talking about getting to the going as long as we could in life, and doing whatever we could do to kind of make sure that we play that game as long as we could, right? I think that's actually a really good segue to kind of how we know one another, right? So I don't think I even introduced you. I'm talking to Palpatine from Kill the Can.
You just said hi. I said hi.
Right, just launched in. So tell me about your quit. Tell me how long you've been quit. Kind of what that looked like. How you're doing today.
2,610 days ago was January 6, 2016. I actually, I'd used for 20 plus years. We got to the point where it was like a 10 a day,
Okay.
like it just ramped up to that. And, man, I think for like 10 years, I was like, I should quit this, and then someone had mentioned to me, I reached out like 7 months before to someone who I heard quit chewing, and I just reached out to him in an email saying, hey, how'd you do it? He actually sent me to the site smokeless.org.
Yep.
And so I went and I signed up, and then but it never let me in. I don't know why, but it never let me in. And I kept on trying to get it, and so I never got any return. Either it was a user error or something else, but I just never got it. And so because I never got in, I think I went like a day or two, and then that was it. And then it was just like, whatever, I'm back in. And it wasn't until, for whatever reason, I think near the end of that year, and at the time, my now 9-year-old was 2. And I was like, why am I doing this? I'm only gonna, end my life earlier, and I won't be around for him.
Sure. Yeah.
And so there was a motivation there for family and just being around. But again, then it was all my own, because I couldn't do it for him or my wife, and I was a ninja dipper. No one knew.
Okay.
And then it was just like all of a sudden, for whatever reason, January 6th, it was kind of like the New Year's quit, but it wasn't.
Right.
And then I just sat there, and I think I had one. I'm like, I'm done. And I came in and I signed up, and I remember someone said post up a day, and I said day 1, and it was I think it was Waste Panel or who was like, I got my eye on you, and I'm like, okay. It was him, and then Rocky Mountain Man, and those two guys, they just kind of clinged on to me. And of course, it was an April group. So the April group on the old site on the Zeta boards, you got like 160 people signing up in April,
right?
And we had tons of us, and then it just was just like, okay, it just became that routine of, this is for me. I'm doing it for me, and I'm going to do it so I can stick around for my family. And once it just kept on going and going, of course, you get further and further along. It's like, yeah, this is a journey. It's not a 100-day sprint and you're done.
Right.
But then it's become more apparent over the years how valuable that alone has then impacted the rest of my life, because you realize life is one day at a time. You realize it's a bigger thing to do, and then trying to help other people out, not be the best quitter. We're all the same. If you're quit today, you're quit today.
Yep.
But it became not this like ego type thing. It became just like, let's help others, and let's pay it forward to however it is, whether it's this or with its alcohol, or just being kind to others on your neighbors. Yeah. Just continue that same mantra. So.
Yeah, I think it's amazing to see, and as we move forward in our tobacco quit, I imagine you've seen this too. It's amazing to see how when people start to get some, and maybe it's confidence, but they get some days under them in terms of being away from nicotine, they start to want to tackle some other things in their life, right? Whether it's alcohol, whether it's getting in shape, whether it's losing weight, whether it's, praying more, whatever it is. Have you seen that as well? Or is that just, I don't think that's just unique to me, my observation.
Oh, no, my wife at the same time, she was going through a pretty rough patch in, what happened last week was not her doing, obviously. That I know of, but back in 2015, 2016, she had a fairly severe eating disorder.
Okay.
And I didn't tell her that I was quitting nicotine, and then it was that summer of 2016, and she had gone through treatment herself. And then I just said, let's count your days. She's like, what are you talking about? And finally, it was day 174. I remember very specifically, I looked at her and I go, today I'm 174 days removed from nicotine. And she looked at me, she's like, you chewed? And, it's like, yeah, we've been married for 4 years and never knew. She's like, I knew you did it like a while ago.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and really it became like, why am I hiding things from my wife, number one,
sure.
or
yeah.
people in general?
Mm-hmm.
And that freedom of just letting go and just knowing that I'm flawed and knowing that I run I lead a men's group at my church called Freedom,
okay,
which is just the freedom of letting go of our pride, letting go of all the things we as men are like,
right.
I'm a guy, I could do it,
right.
like muscle on your own. Like, no, surrender, which is just totally what, quitting nicotine was like. Surrender.
Yeah.
Let go, own your fault, and then dig in. You got work to do.
Yeah.
And so those things, like you said, like there's so many things that you have work to do in life. But it's funny when I tell people, it's like people could quit drinking, quit all this stuff, but quit nicotine. Nope, can't do it. Need it.
Can't
and
do
it's
it.
like, and
yeah.
it is the hardest thing to do. And it is why it's a one day at a time thing. Some people can do it pretty easily. Like, good for them. God bless them. That's not me.
Right. I was talking to a guy on, I think it was in TikTok the other night. He sent me a message and he said, I can dip every once in a while and not get addicted. And and I could tell he was kind of a troll, right? And he was kind of looking to get a rise out of me. And my response was clear. Well, you're lucky. Like I can't do that. I'm like, good for you. Right. And I think he was kind of taken aback by my response. Cause as people are prone to do on the internet, again, he was kind of looking for a fight. It was 12:30 on a Friday night or whatever. But then, so, he and I, we traded a couple more, messages back and forth. And then he said, well, I think it's probably because I vape that I don't get addicted.
Oh.
And I was just like, oh, okay. Well, you're right. So I don't know. I just got a kick out of that. I was like, wait, you're vaping.
They quit. They don't realize what they're trying to quit.
Right. Exactly. So I don't know.
It's a little ignorant.
Right. Right. And again, I genuinely though, I felt bad for him. You know what I mean? Like I was just like, oh shit, like this sucks. Like you think you're accomplishing this big thing and you're trying to be an asshole to me on the internet and trolling me, where at the same time though, you've actually failed. You know what I mean? Like I genuinely felt bad for him. It was kind of a bummer, but
right. Yeah.
So at this point in your quit, what, some 2,600 days, are you on cruise control? Do you still struggle? Like what does that look like? I mean, obviously, there might be ups and downs. Like, let me ask you this. 2 weeks ago, when your wife was going through all this, did the thought ever enter your mind, or were you just focused on her?
No, I remember I posted up, as you saw, on Discord, and it was more, that was a reflection of like, well, thank goodness I didn't resort to that in that week time, because of course it's like, well, she's in the hospital. That was kind of like, hey, my wife's away. Oh, okay. I'm gonna go have a dip and just kind of let my night go by and I'll be fine. It crossed my mind. I'm not gonna sit there and say it did it. It
sure.
totally did. But it didn't cross my mind of like an urge. It was more like It was more, oh, I know what I do in the past. Thank
Right.
goodness I don't do that
And
because
I
I
do that.
have what
Yeah.
I already did. But it wasn't even like, oh, I need a stressor to take it down. It was more, so I mean, cruise control or not, it's more of the fact that I've trained myself so well to know that it's like no matter what comes at you, like it doesn't matter if someone it's like any bad thing would always be a justification to like,
Yeah.
okay, well, this is so bad, now I can go do it. This is a free
Right.
pass, and that in itself is just like, no, it's not. I mean, it doesn't
Right.
matter. It's not, it doesn't matter what happens. It's not a free pass. I
Right.
know that when I go there, if I go that way, it's going to be that way. But it was a good reminder at that time, like when I sent the post out to you guys just to say, hey, throughout it all, still quit. That
Yeah.
was like the all this crap happened, but I'm still here. I'm still just notching days one at a time.
And I gotta think that on some level that probably felt really good to be able to send that message, right? To be like, hey, I'm still strong, right? Whether and maybe you didn't even think about it, but I would imagine that like that would feel really good to be able to say I'm strong still.
Oh yeah, no,
You
totally.
know?
It's more. It's like thank goodness literally. I know if it was 100 days in, way back when, I would have found like, well, here it is. Okay, now I got my reason.
Yeah.
I'm gonna, and it's so not there anymore because it's like, why would you do such a thing? It's
Right.
not, and it doesn't do anything for you. It only just kills you more.
Right.
Like there's no benefit at
Right.
all.
Right.
It,
You're right, and which is I don't know if it's funny or sad or both, but it's like you and I were in this position for years or decades where that was a completely reasonable line of thinking to be like, oh, this going back to correlation where we were talking about before, right? This bad thing happened, so this good thing, quote unquote, good thing can make up for it, or is allowed, or is okay now, right? And you're right. It's like you get away from it for long enough where your brain gets rewired, and not only do you not want it and not crave it anymore, but at least for me, I don't want to put words in your mouth. Just my whole way of thinking about nicotine is just completely drastically different today than it was years ago when I was, like even I don't know if you saw there was a conversation relatively recently on Bert Kreischer's podcast where where he had is it Huberman, the doctor, was talking about the benefits of nicotine. I don't know if you saw that. Um, and like
no, I haven't seen it, but I'm laughing at because that's totally oxymoron, not true. Go on.
right. Well, and it's funny, like, so it's, you hear these, you read these studies, and it's, well, nicotine is good for Alzheimer's, or it's good for this, or it's good for, this, that, and the other thing. And there was a day when I might have read something like that and gone, oh, okay, well, yeah, it's like there's all these bad things, but these good things make up for the bad things, right? Whereas now I look at that and I would say, okay, well, let's just say for argument's sake, there are good things, but the good things are not worth going through the bad things to get there. If that makes
No.
any sense. I don't even know if you're following me, but yeah.
Well, no, I mean, it's like, oh yeah, if there's a report that nicotine's good for averting Alzheimer's, it's like, well, then maybe you should go figure out how many people get Alzheimer's out of that, and then find out, are you going to be one of the few that gets it? And
Right.
is it really worth going and take it? Make it a justifiable like reasoning. Like, so does it make sense? Like, if you take a sampling of 1 million people and 1,000 of those million get Alzheimer's, is it worth to use nicotine because you might be one of 1,000?
Right. Right.
Oh well, if I use it, then I won't get Alzheimer's. It's like, no, you'll just die before that because
Right.
you'll get cancer.
Right.
But the rational thought of going through that is like, why? You're saving money. You're not looking. You don't have crappy teeth. You don't have
Yeah.
stuff stuck in your teeth anymore. You're not flossing. You're not going to the dentist. There's this stuff. You're not doing that stuff. So what's the point? But you're
Right.
so addicted to it that once you finally get away from it, it's like you were blinded at the time, and now you could see through it and see, oh, I was dumb for all those years. Now it's clear vision for what I'm
Sure.
doing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm going on my soapbox here, but that's
No,
me.
no, no. You're. I'm standing right next to you on that soapbox. Believe me, I get it. So let's see. I've had a couple people on the podcast, and I always forget to ask this question. I'm pretty sure I know the answer to yours. What's the genesis of your screen name? It has to be Star Wars, right?
Oh, of course.
Yeah. Okay.
Of course.
Okay. Good.
Of course.
Now, and we could have an entire.
It'd be very weird if it wasn't.
Well, it would be. It would be.
I just made it up.
Right. just off the top of my head, right?
Just happened to be Lord Sidious's name. It was my own.
Right. And now I'm sure we could have an entire podcast about this, but like, just in general, your thoughts on prequel trilogy versus OG versus sequel trilogy, not which one you like better. Cause I think I know the answer to every 40-something-year-old that I would ask that question to, but just, do you have any thoughts just kind of in general? Love them, hate them?
I like them all.
Yeah.
The original original three, which were 4, 5, and 6,
Yeah.
are so great for what they were at the time. And just the fact that, I love Han. I've always loved Han's character. He just creates so much thing. Ian McDermott he's in the prequels, and the only reason why the prequels are good is because of him. I mean, otherwise, I think the prequels would kind of be
meh. Yeah.
I mean, and they sort of are.
Right.
But again, I like the story in the prequels. I think just George Lucas got a little ahead of himself with all the technology and CGI that he thought were so cool, and it just became kind of a mess.
Yeah.
I still like the story. The story's good. Acting so, but Ian McDermott makes the prequel what it is.
Sure.
I think he's amazing. And then the J.J. Abrams ones. I mean, Force Awakens was awesome. And then what was it? The Last Jedi, and the Last Jedi was 8, and then I forget.
Rise of Skywalker.
Rise of Skywalker. Thank you.
Yeah.
9. Those two are okay. I mean, I liked them. Again, I think Force Awakens was awesome. Force Awakens was, just everything about it was awesome.
It was such a return. It was such a return to the OG, if that makes it like it felt like Star Wars again, where the prequels, there was some cool visual stuff in there, but they didn't age very well. And that one really seemed like a return to the practical effects, return to the worlds that we knew. Essentially, you can make the argument that it was a retelling of A New Hope, and I'm okay with that because New Hope was
which is fine.
That good, right? Yeah.
No, yeah. I agree. I mean, I love Rogue One.
Oh, it was so good. It was so good.
And I know that's outside of it all.
Yeah.
And I know, but if you want to talk about one that just kind of went out there that doesn't really follow the flow, Rogue One's amazing.
Yeah.
It's a darker movie, but it's really well done.
And this might sound like heresy, but I could in an objective world, I could probably make an argument that might be my favorite Star Wars movie. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know that I can actually bring myself to say it, but like, it's really good. I mean, and it holds up really. Now, maybe it's because of what's around it, right? Maybe it's because where it is sandwiched in the story.
In between 3 and 4, and and no one knows, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, that's what they're doing. They're trying to get the plans for the Death Star.
Oh, it's just so good. It was so good. Are you watching? Have you watched like Mandalorian and a lot of the Disney Plus stuff or no?
I watched the first season of Mandalorian, and then I haven't watched anything since.
Okay.
I've heard Andor is really good.
Yep.
I'll get to it at some point.
I'm up on Mandalorian. I never watched Andor, but I heard same with you. I heard it's very good, and I'm sure I would enjoy it, especially since it's around kind of Rogue One characters and those kind of things. Next season of Mandalorian comes out, I think, next week, which is why it's kind of top of mind. So I'm very much looking forward to that. Well, hey, I want to be cognizant of your time. I know I had to take a little break here, which I will edit out in the middle. I had a contractor at my house. Is there anything else that you want to kind of share with the Kill the Can community, or say hi, or anything like that? I'll leave the floor to you here.
It's the main thing that I see is happening, sadly, is since I started this in 2016 and here we are, and I think it's cultural, how accountability and just integrity around, I mean, men in general, number one, but I know that the community is for all, both men and women, but just kind of how this is a, brotherhood as it should be, and how it's sadly become weaker, or a place where people don't want to be held accountable.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I don't know if that's the culture that we're in that has happened just in the past 3 years, but it's more like just to not to dig your heels into what it was. It's more like accountability, integrity are things that stand the test of time.
Mm-hmm.
They're around in the past. They're going to continue to be here today, and they'll be here in the future. It's the culture that's wavering for whatever reason, and just to kind of get people to get grounded back on the fact that the tough love is there for a reason, to get people and say, hey, come in because you need someone to be held accountable.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know why people are scared of it or whatever, if it's just the culture has changed, but to not lose that grounding, because I think people start to say, well, okay, if that's how it is, I guess we'll just let it go. We're letting things go so much now just to let people just do whatever they want, that it's ruining the foundation of a lot of stuff.
Sure.
I'm going deeper here, but I do really look at it as a accountability, integrity of just quitting nicotine. So when someone goes after that one singular thing that's happening in your life, like, I need to get rid of this in my life because there's nothing good about it, and I need to lean on others. And for whatever reason, I'm gonna do it by myself, or I don't want to be accountable, whatever. And it's just surrendering. Like, surrender to it all. Like, surrender and let other people help. They might be wrong too. You might be surrendering to people and they could be wrong, but at least you are letting someone else know. And that's the thing, that when I did this back then, I'm like, okay, I'm letting a bunch of people on an internet forum know that I'm quitting. I mean, they can't come and get me, but
right,
at least it's something. And then
right,
all of a sudden they'll hammer me, and they should hammer me because I signed up for something to be accountable. Well, then I should follow through. And if I don't want to be held accountable, I should walk away.
Yeah. I think you're right. I think these tenets of accountability, I would agree with you. I think in general, just kind of in society, I don't think people like being held accountable for anything, right?
It's getting worse and worse, though.
Well, it is, and because it's hard, right? It's because you're being told things about yourself that you have either been ignoring, whether willfully or not, right? And it's hard to be told that you are failing, right, at whatever it is, right? And so, I think you're right, and I don't know why that is happening in a broader sense. I could make a guess about, is it social media? Is it this? Is it, I don't know. I could hazard a guess. But I think you're right. I think the concept of accountability is just so vitally important in many walks of life, not just quitting nicotine. It is of paramount importance there.
Well, like, hey, I screwed up in a car accident, owning it.
Right.
Just, hey, you know what? I messed up. I'm not the best driver out there.
Right.
Oh, I did something. I'm a parent to my boys, and you know what? I disciplined them wrong. Own up to him. Be an example to my boy. Like, hey, you know what? Dad's wrong sometimes.
Right. And it's okay.
Like, you are? It's like, well, yeah. If I'm the model to him,
right.
Oh, well, dad screws up. Okay. It's okay.
Right.
And it's almost like we're teaching everyone, like, nope, it's a Facebook personality. Everybody's happy.
I'm always correct. I'm always right.
Nope, I'm showered. I look good. Don't look over here. And it's like, no, there's a mess over here.
Right.
But I'm here controlled in my mess to show others that, hey, life is messy, and I'm going to share with you what it is and how I got through it. Yeah. And then I can help you. And people don't want to do that anymore.
Yeah. I like that a lot. Controlling the mess. I like that a lot. That I'm going to use that again because that really resonates because nobody's perfect, right? It's funny. No. You hear, you'll see, and I'll leave you this kind of with this one last anecdote here. Have you ever had a situation where you've known a couple, you've known them for a long time, and maybe you've lost touch with them, but you see them on Facebook and everything is good and everything is peachy keen, and then 6 months or 6 years down the road, they got divorced, right? Well, all you've known of them is that crystal clear, perfect vision that is put forth on social media, right?
Yep.
Where in reality, the mess has been going on, and that's really the reality. Now, I'm not suggesting that like if you put all your shit out on Facebook, it's going to make everything magically better. But I think your point is really well taken. Like, nobody's perfect, and it's okay to admit that. And especially like when you need help, it's okay to admit that you need help in all walks of life. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, no, Facebook is actually taking us a step back because we all pretend we're good.
Yeah,
we all want no one to come and knock on our door. And it's like, hey guys, it's a mess over here. Why don't you come on over? Right. I'll share it with you.
I'll show you.
Oh, you got all of a sudden like you got that too? Oh, we didn't know. It's like all of a sudden when you start telling more people, it's amazing. Yeah. For whatever reason, we're told not to tell people. It's not like go out and tell them all the crap. It's like some stuff is just okay, stop.
Right.
But it's like, hey, my wife had a stroke. What? It's like, yeah, kind of sucks right now. But you know what? We're getting through it. We got an army of people over here. Oh my goodness, it must be horrible, Mike. You know what? I just look for the light. I'm just looking for the light everywhere because there's drops of people coming in that I hadn't seen before, and all of a sudden they're shining the light and just going, they're beautiful, they're awesome, they're so great, they're there to support you. Instead of hiding it all, and just like when I told people I use Chewie, they're like, "You did?" I'm like, "Yeah." And here's what I did. Here's how you did. I mean, all of a sudden you realize, and it's not to pour glory on me.
Right.
It's more like, hey, you know what? There's ways to get through the stuff you're going through. Just ask.
Yeah.
Or find out. So.
Yeah, and if there is one good thing about social media, it allows us to reach so many more people, right? If totally. We're willing to open up and put some of that stuff out there, but you got to do it. So, Palp, I cannot thank you enough for the few minutes you've taken to put your story out there. Thank you very much. It's an honor to be quit with you. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Oh yeah, no, thanks. You too.
All right, talk to you later, brother.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks. All right. Yep. Bye.
Bye.
Join us again next time for another edition of the Kill the Can podcast.